Henry Ford, he said, whether you believe that you can succeed or you believe that you cannot, in either case you are correct. If you believe you can succeed, your subconscious will make you succeed. If you believe you cannot succeed, your own subconscious will subvert your efforts. So we are not realizing, but we are programming our subconscious through the conscious self-talk. Now that conscious self-talk, you take it in your hands and start speaking to yourself well. The second golden rule: harness the power of self-talk. Self-talk is the way you speak to your own self. If you participate in an executive development program of your company, they will tell you about interpersonal communication and its importance. Now here we are talking about intrapersonal communication and its importance. We don't realize it, but just at the border of our conscious awareness, we are speaking to ourselves. You are listening to the lecture and the self-talk is going on. He's saying this point, quite valid one. This makes a lot of sense. This one doesn't make that much sense. This self-talk that we do, we don't realize, but it impacts us tremendously. If our self-talk is positive, it could do wonders to us. But if it is negative, it could hurt us like nothing else. Consider this example. One IT professional in Chicago, a young NRI from India, always dreamed of becoming a CTO in a big company. And then he got his dream job offer. One placement organization discovered him on LinkedIn and did a matching of profiles. And they offered him a CTO position for a technology company in Germany. He looked at that and said, yippee, my life dream is coming true. But then self-talk stepped in. Am I really competent enough to deserve this job? Will I be able to perform? Will the company survive? If it doesn't, I'll get stuck in Germany. Now his self-talk was so harmful, he was hitting his own legs with an axe. In 15 days, he sent his non-acceptance letter, I'm not interested. This is how self-talk works. In India, I'm often obliged to go to educational institutes. They often invite me when I go to different cities. And one question comes up every time since the last 6-7 years. They say, Swamiji, so many motivational speakers visit us. Nowadays, everybody has become a motivational speaker in India. So they come and tell us, you can do it, just think it will be done, you go out of this room with all charged up. So we also get charged up, yeah, I can do it. But then after 6 hours, I'm not that motivated. And after 24 hours, I'm back to where I was. So how come, Swamiji, that motivation doesn't remain inside me? I say, look, that motivational speaker, okay, whatever half-baked knowledge he gave, it was not wrong. He was only enthusing you, which is a good thing. You should have passion. You should have inspiration. So he told you and tried to get you inspired. There was nothing faulty in what he said. But subsequent to that, how did you speak to yourself? If you kept on saying, that is all very well, but in my case, that is also nice, but in my case, now you deprogrammed yourself out of the motivation. That is the power of self-talk. Now you just be careful about the way you are talking to yourself. Are you keeping on telling yourself, I am a good for nothing, I can do nothing, the world is against me? Now imagine, won't that become your worst enemy? See how self-talk works. Understand the science behind it. Our mind has one subconscious part and one conscious part. The conscious part you are aware of. I am feeling happy now, I am feeling hungry now, I am feeling pleased now. So this is your conscious mind. And there is a subconscious mind, which is not in your awareness. It is the memory bank of all your lifetime experiences. It is all there and keeps on impacting you. Now just suppose that one 4-year-old girl walked into an elevator, and when the elevator moved up, the lights went out. For the next 20 minutes, the girl was in darkness. She didn't know what was going on. She was screaming and nobody was responding. It was the most scary event of her 4-year-old life. Subsequently, the lights came back, the elevator moved into place and she walked out. The experience was a conscious one. But as the weeks and months went by, she forgot about it. It's no longer in her conscious awareness, but it is embedded in the subconscious. And every time she enters a closed space, she breaks into a sweat. In English, there's a word for it, claustrophobia, fear of closed spaces. And she also doesn't know why this is happening. It's illogical, it's irrational, but it's a phobia. So this phobia is arising because the memory is there in the subconscious. This subconscious of ours is such a powerful part of our personality. It works much faster than the conscious. That is the subconscious. Just like when you speak, do you figure out where is the tongue supposed to go? How much is the mouth supposed to be open? You are conscious of what you wish to speak and the rest the subconscious is doing. So the subconscious works at hundreds of times the speed of the conscious. Now that subconscious does not use logic. It is a servant at your command. You have to program it through your conscious self-talk. How many of you have had this experience that you had to catch an early morning flight? So you set your alarm at night for 4 a.m. But at 2 minutes to 4, you woke up. Right? Almost everybody. What woke you up? It was your subconscious. We have our own bio clock. That is why the jet lag happens. Right? The bio clock makes you hungry at times, it makes you sleepy. So the subconscious was informed. We need to wake up at 4 a.m. when it woke you at 2 minutes before 4 a.m. So the subconscious, your dutiful servant. Now if you are keeping on telling your subconscious, I cannot succeed, the subconscious whenever a difficult situation arises, it will give you 50 reasons to become demoralized. And if you have programmed your subconscious that good things can happen, it will give you 50 reasons to be positive and optimistic. So your own subconscious will become your best friend or your worst enemy. So, Henry Ford, he said, whether you believe that you can succeed or you believe that you cannot, in either case you are correct. If you believe you can succeed, your subconscious will make you succeed. If you believe you cannot succeed, your own subconscious will subvert your efforts. So we are not realizing, but we are programming our subconscious through the conscious self-talk. Now that conscious self-talk, you take it in your hands and start speaking to yourself well. Now take a look at the self-talk of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was the leader of the civil rights movement in the 1980s, etc., in South Africa, where the apartheid government was ruling. So he was incarcerated, put behind bars and subject to the worst kind of torments. He was literally tortured to make him break his heart. So he would be made to live in a small cell and then go out in the daytime to break stones in a lime quarry where the sun was so glaring he got almost blinded. And in the harsh South African winters, he would have one t-shirt and one short to wear. Once he remembered that a guard made him dig a grave and then made him lie in the grave. He thought he was done for. And then the guard urinated on him. So those were the kind of hardships. But in the midst of that, he remained so positive. He used to tell all the other prisoners, keep learning. His motto was, each one, teach one. Whatever you learn, you teach to the other. So what was learning, teaching about in the prison? About self-improvement. Subsequently, after 27 years in prison, finally when it became evident that now the government was going to collapse and he would then take over, he was then prepared for the role and finally released. And subsequent to his becoming Prime Minister, a famous coach in the United States, Tony Robbins, interviewed him on a national channel and asked him, how did you survive those hardships? He said, survive? I was preparing myself. His self-talk was so different. Not, hey Bhagavan, hey Baba, hey Bhagavan, what did you do? Oh. His self-talk was, I'm preparing myself. Here's a hardship. How will I take it? How will I handle this situation? How will I remain positive? So every situation was making him grow. His self-talk was, I am preparing myself. That kind of self-talk enabled him to keep a country which in 1993, when apartheid was removed, it was on the brink of a civil war. He prevented it from disintegrating. His positivity. That kind of positivity all of us can create in ourselves so easily. First of all, the right beliefs, and secondly, the self-talk. Now take a look at this IT engineer who had a very painful and bitter divorce 3 months ago. And to top it all, the project on which he was working was a federal project that was top security. So it required him to change his password every month. And every 5 minutes that he was away from his workstation, when he came back, he had to put the password. So the new password every month must have at least 8 digits in it. And it must have at least 1 digit, 1 alphabet, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, 1 alphanumeral. Now to remember what was the password, then again, and on top of it, the bitterness of his divorce. It was so much of a stress. The time came to change his password once more. He suddenly had a brainwave. He wrote the numeral 4, and in front of it with the capital G, he put give, forgive, and then an @ sign and her, forgive her. Forgive the ex. Now every time he would go away from his desk and come back, he would type forgive her. And again go away, forgive her. And 50 times in a day, he is typing forgive her. So slowly it started seeping in. The self-talk changed, forgive her. And the subconscious programming started changing. So he realized that in the space of 1 week, there was a conscious shift. And his bitterness was perceptibly less. And in the space of 2 weeks, he was feeling much better and regained a bit of his joy. And he was continuing typing, forgive her, forgive her, forgive her. By the end of the month, he had been liberated from the resentment. And he felt his mind was free again. He said, wow, this was so nice. He then thought, what should be my new password? He always wanted to save for purchasing a house, but had never gotten down to it. So his new password he made save and the numeral 4 and @ sign and house, save for house, save for house. This time he kept on telling himself, save for house, save for house. And the consequence was his subconscious started prompting him, look, don't purchase this because you have to save for house. So he was able to actually make a substantial difference in his savings. This kind of self-opportunity is available to all of us. You can either speak to yourself loudly. When you go into your restroom and look in the mirror, you can actually speak to yourself. Or all day long, you can speak to yourself in the mind. But remember, we are already doing it. Now you take charge of it and do it consciously as per good beliefs. And your subconscious will then become your best friend.